Hello, welcome to ZenView Studios Lab. Eric here. A new video about ANAG MH12. The reason I'm doing it is because I haven't seen anybody do it. On that you have the product description, a little video from the manufacturer, but nothing more than that. Here's a little bit a hands-on approach to the product. And to explain also why I choose the product, because it's a great little megaohmeter with some features that I haven't found in another product. I was looking for one, and I'll explain that too. Voila, let's go on. So this is the meter. It comes in a pouch with cords. You have 2 cords, and you have these adapters, which are screw type adapters. So this is very convenient for what we use this for. And little things here, and you have to put batteries obviously in it. It's not rechargeable, it's battery operated. Okay, so the product, you turn it on with this. What's the use of the product? It's a megaohmeter. Plus it does a number of other things. My main interest was in the megaohm aspect. And the 2 aspects was that obviously it's a megaohmeter. What it means is that in general a megaohmeter will subject the device under test to a voltage here, a high voltage. This one has the capacity of varying the voltage. That's really what interested me. All the way to 1000 volt. So what's the interest? The output voltage of, you see it here, 50 to 100 volt, or 1000 volt. The interest is this, capacitors to measure dielectric constants. That's what I showed in another video. But we'll go over that. One thing we can turn on the lighting, I think. No, the lighting, it's not this one, it's this one, sorry. Oh, you have the backlight that you can turn on here. Consumes more battery, obviously, so I won't let it on. But so, as I was saying, the interest is this variation. There are a lot, let's put it this way, a lot of megaohmeters have ranges, higher ranges, 200 volts or so on and so forth. Like this one has 250 volts, etc. And it's good for like 600 volt caps or things like this, because you can go maybe to 500 volt and test the dielectric. But the one aspect which most don't have is the 100 volt and 50 volt range. And that's very interesting for my use. Audio capacitors, they very often are in those ranges. Between, if it's power supply, you can have 200 volts caps, obviously, but the rest, it's generally between 50 and 100 volt, 63 volts or something like this. So the fact that you have a range for 50 volt lets you test really the dielectric on capacitors, which are for audio range. That was my interest in buying this equipment. One thing that you can see here, which I noted in the video on the caps, is that I checked whether the voltage supply, it's a voltage, even though it's AC voltage, it's biased from 0 up. So you can subject electrolytic capacitor which has positive and negative. The only thing is you have to know obviously where does the positive come from and where does the negative come from. And when you test here with a DC meter, you will see that the voltage supplied, it's the positive is not here, it's in fact negative from here and positive from here. So this is one thing you have to watch for when you do tests with electrolytic capacitors. And this is one thing that you ought to know, because it's really counterintuitive, to say the least, that This is in fact positive voltage here and negative. It should be the other way around. I don't know why they did it this way. Maybe nobody uses it but me for capacitor testing, for electrolytic capacitor testing. I don't know. Anyway, it's really worth nothing. Besides this, you have another mode, which is if you put the leads this time here, which allows you to use it as a regular multimeter. And in this case, it's no longer, it's surely still multimeter. You have a 10 to 600 volt range. It's a 2000 count multimeter, and you can measure DC or AC voltage. Voila, that's as simple as that. And then you go back to the mega ohm mode, which uses the test button. And the test button, we will see it glows in red to tell you that you have a high voltage present onto the leads of the meter. Since it's a megaohmeter, you have also a third lead here, a grounding lead. I won't go into that. I used it just with those two probes and nothing else for the time being. And there is another thing that you can do with this meter. It's it's with this function, and it's really to test on equipment whether the insulation is okay or not, and you have different tests, and it's a measure in time. In effect, it's still a mega ohm measurement with pushing voltage through the dielectric that you are testing, and to see if there is any variation over time, and which would indicate that it's not okay, and whether the polarization is in the right way or not. This is where it says automatically computes DAR and P. Voila. I won't go into that. I'll let you discover that if you want. I'm not an expert on those measures, so I won't really detail it. What was interesting for me was that mega ohm function. The way it functions is simple. You push the button here, and you get the display and the time information. If you put the leads together, you short them, you can see, voila, you'll get a zero display and no voltage happening, obviously. That's the short thing. If it's open, obviously it goes directly, since it doesn't have to load, it's directly 50 volts. You can see what it does with a multimeter, not regular multimeter, or with a scope. You can have a look also at the voltage that comes out. I will show you that. All right, here we go. We have connected the annex to the scope. I will show you the result on the scope. First test with 50 volts. Let's have a look. See if we can see the scope a little bit better. Okay, I push the test button, and this is what we see. We can increase this. What you can see is, okay, I will up, make it bigger, and a little bit like this, and stop the wave. So what you can see is it's the pulse. You see it's supposed to be 50 volts. This is the average is around 50 volts. It goes a bit higher, and in fact it's always positive. This is the interesting part. The zero, it's well below. See, this is where the zero was. So anyway, so again, that's the 50 volt version of the pulse. We can look at it here. Now we stop and we go to 100 volts. We'll see what happens on the meter, on the scope. On the scope, let's see, where is this? It's here. Okay, let's start again. Now we can reduce maybe up. This is the pulse. you see that it's low frequency repetition. It's not very high speed, but anyway, that's not really the interest. The frequency, it has the counter has a hard time making out. See, it's 11 kilohertz or something like this. The pulse, that because we can stop. We have false triggering because it doesn't know exactly where to trigger to have a better view of the pulse, since when you see it's not perfectly stable, it's sometimes 3, it's sometimes 2, you can see that a little bit. Anyway, that's really not the interest. The voltages are what we ought to see, and you see clearly that you have peaks of 130 volts, but the average is much lesser. And this is RMS, it's also off. You have a hard time. The peak-to-peak voltage is a little bit better. We'd have to have cursors to know exactly what we have for voltages. Let's see if we put the cursor back down here, up, and this one, sorry, up. Okay, now looking at the cursors, we have 49 volts peak to peak, and that's in a 100-volt mode, but it's up there. So anyway, this is what the machine sends. Here it's back to 0. Voilà, this is where the 0 is at, so you have an idea. You can increase again still to 250 volts, and let's see what that gives. It's now, you see, much higher, and this is where the 250 volts is. Okay. Again, it's an oscillation between the voltages, and it's high voltage. This is how it's testing, and it's getting. The interesting part is that what the analog meter shows is it's always the 10 megohm that the oscilloscope has for impedance. This is correct. Well, that's a little bit just some ideas about this particular megaohmeter, which I found convenient, not too expensive in my opinion for what it gives, and the fact that it had selectable voltages was really what made me purchase. I hope you enjoyed, and please do make a like, put a like, and subscribe if you do. Thank you.